and may the 4th be with you. We've been trying to find Star Wars facts we didn't already know. Let's talk about the best live-action Star Wars film ever made for television, Caravan of Courage, an Ewok adventure. When a family's spacecraft crashes on the forest moon of planet Endor, Mace and his little sister Sindel find themselves separated from their parents. With the help of the Ewoks, they set out on a quest to rescue their parents from the vicious monster known as the Gorax. No? Not your favorite of the Star Wars flicks? Okay, it's not a crowd pleaser and not canon to the current franchise, but it is a part of Star Wars history. George Lucas planned a half-hour television product about Ewoks, but when shopping around the idea, TV networks had no interest in a half-hour special. But ABC showed interest in a 2-hour movie of the week, and they expanded the project to fill the request. Concept was a cross between Hansel and Gretel and Tarzan of the Apes. The film was shot in Marin County, home of Skywalker Ranch, with most of it filming only 5 miles from the ranch in a public park called Roy's Redwoods Preserve, home of 300-year-old sequoias, the oldest in the area. Even the various food items in the movie came from Marin vegetable markets in San Francisco's Chinatown. Cactus, little squashes, tomatillos, nuts, gnarled roots, leafy greens, and every imaginable type of dried fish and fungus. The narrator might sound familiar. The voice belonged to Burl Ives, who played Sam the Snowman in the 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And that's Caravan of Courage, an Ewok adventure. Have you seen it? Does it strike a nostalgic chord? Did you know Star Wars creator George Lucas wanted to adapt Flash Gordon because as a kid he loved the serials? Unfortunately, he couldn't get the cinematic rights. So he decided he might as well invent his Flash Gordon-style story, and that was the birth of Star Wars. Lucas signed a deal with United Artists to develop 2 films. The first, American Graffiti, and the second, his space opera, then called The Star Wars. However, United Artists passed on both projects. Universal picked up American Graffiti, but the Star Wars got shelved. But Lucas didn't give up. He worked on the Star Wars script extensively, writing 4 different screenplays. Each of them involved aspects that ended up in the final film. His first draft did include the Death Star, but it also featured a general named Anakin Starkiller. Audience favorite Han Solo was scripted as a large green-skinned alien with gills. And at one point, Lucas planned for the characters of Luke Skywalker and his aunt and uncle to be little people. But Chewbacca was always going to be based on Lucas's Alaskan Malamute dog named Indiana. By the 3rd draft, Anakin Starkiller had become the father of a young farm boy named Luke Starkiller. Force was introduced, and Lucas started turning to other sources for inspiration. Eventually realizing the script was getting unwieldy, he made it a trilogy. Even the film's title underwent changes as they entered production, and the film was titled The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga 1, The Star Wars. Thankfully, during production, Lucas changed Luke's name to Skywalker and shortened the title to The Star Wars, and finally just Star Wars. You might already know these casting facts. Harrison Ford did carpentry work for George Lucas, and the American Graffiti casting director Fred Roos, who championed Ford, cast him in American Graffiti as big talking townie who's jonesing for a drag race. Lucas didn't want to cast Ford in Star Wars, wanting a new cast, so Ford was brought in to simply read lines during auditions, which led to Lucas realizing he was the best for the role. Brian De Palma and Lucas did joint casting sessions. Lucas was casting Star Wars while De Palma was casting Carrie. The role of Luke Skywalker came down to Mark Hamill and William Katt. Hamill got Star Wars, but Katt was cast in Carrie. Several actors auditioned for the role of Princess Leia, including Amy Irving, who was also cast in Carrie, and future Raider of the Lost Ark co-star Karen Allen. But it was Jodie Foster who was offered the role. However, she was under contract with Disney, and that led to Carrie Fisher getting the part. Peter Mayhew was waiting to audition when George Lucas entered the room. He stood, shaking Lucas's hand and looming over him at 7 foot 3 inches. Immediately, Lucas offered him the role of either Chewbacca or Darth Vader. Mayhew fancied playing a hero, so he chose Chewbacca. David Prowse was cast to play Darth Vader, and fully expected his voice to be used in the final product. However, he had a very regional British accent that led him to be nicknamed Darth Farmer by the crew. Lucas considered Orson Welles to voice the Sith Lord, but decided his voice was too famous. Because of that, the wonderful voice of James Earl Jones became the iconic villain. In a cast of virtual unknowns, Alec Guinness was a living legend, an Oscar winner for his work on Bridge of River Kwai. Guinness was brought in so people would take the project seriously. He agreed to play the part, and part of his contract was a portion of the royalties. Also in the agreement, it was made clear he didn't have to participate in any promotion of the picture. When it came to Empire Strikes Back, George Lucas didn't want to write the script himself, so he hired science fiction writer Lee Brackett to pen the film. They wrote the initial story ideas together, and then Brackett wrote the first draft of the screenplay. It didn't feature Darth Vader as Luke's father, and Luke's sister was mentioned, but it wasn't Princess Leia. However, Brackett unfortunately had cancer, a fact that Lucas knew upon hiring her. She died before Lucas could even give her the first round of notes. Needing to keep moving under a compressed timeline, Lucas wrote a second draft of the script which defined how Yoda spoke and introduced bounty hunters, including Boba Fett. He then hired Lawrence Kasdan, who he worked with previously on Raiders of the Lost Ark. When the screenplay finished, they settled on the title of Empire Strikes Back, and basically nothing from Brackett's first draft remained. Writers Guild arbitration could have left her without any credit on the film, but Lucas vouched for her as a co-writer, giving her and Kasdan shared screenplay credit, and Lucas took story credit. Additionally, Lucas paid Brackett's family extra money on top of her contract. Did you know that unlike his castmates, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford was not under contract for a third Star Wars film, and that led him to get cast in Carbonite at the end of Empire Strikes Back. There was no guarantee he would reprise his role in Return of the Jedi. Even though Ford was convinced to return, he felt it would be a good idea for Han Solo to die early in the third film. Screenwriting partner Lawrence Kasdan agreed. He liked that it set an uncertainty of which characters would survive the adventure. However, George Lucas despised the idea. The rumor was he feared it would hurt merchandise sales. Ford even mentioned during an ABC News interview in 2010 that Lucas didn't see any future in dead Han toys. Can you picture a Return of the Jedi without a Han Solo? There you go, Star Killers. Facts about Star Wars. Give us a follow. We talk about movies. May the 4th be with you.